Welcome to another exciting episode of ARG Presents. I'm Amigo Aaron, joined as always by a man simply known as the Duke, Mr. X himself, Brent.
Hey man, sorry I'm a little late. What's going on?
Brent!
You already... Hey everybody, what's going on?
So, if you joined us last week, and I think you may have, we spun the wheel, we made the deal. The controversial deal that this week we'll be playing selections from the Microsoft Xbox.
Yes, as retro can go, or...
Listen, we spun the wheel and we made the deal.
You know, really,
that's just the way it goes.
If fate didn't want us to do this episode, it would have just never landed there.
That's right.
And you notice it landed there first thing.
Correct, so. Brent. Very true, very true. So, Brent, what do you know about the Microsoft Xbox? That's hard to say. Microsoft Xbox. Did you ever own an Xbox? And what are your experiences with said Xbox?
I have owned multiple Xbox console systems, both for just the fun of having an Xbox and then a modded retro machine later on down the line.
Controversial.
Yeah, you know.
We'll get into that.
Oh, let me tell you something. The console itself is basically, it was the first of the computer in a box.
I would mostly agree with that, yes.
And as such, it was treated as a computer in a box. Although I have very fond memories of Xbox, playing online with my friends. It was one of the first consoles that we all, outside of PC, of course, that we all sat down and played together. So
very good. So let's take a look at this bad boy. So the Microsoft Xbox from Microsoft, aka the makers of Windows and Microsoft DOS, and the beloved Zune, among other things.
Not as much yet.
This console debuted unceremoniously. Actually, it was quite a ceremony in 2001. In North America anyway, November 15th, one of the few times North America led the charge on console releases.
Yes.
Sure. It released in the USA November 15th, 2001, in Japan February 22nd, 2002, and in Australia and Europe March 14th, 2002. So as usual, Europe last in line to get these things released. Do you recall what this sold for in 2001?
I believe it was $3.99.
Close, $2.99.
$2.99,
which in today's money, $423. Now, I found an article on I think it was CNN Money. It was from 2001, talking about the console sales. This is from November, and they were talking about how many of these things sold, because the GameCube and the Xbox were selling they compared the numbers of consoles sold.
Sure.
And I didn't care about the numbers sold. The final numbers was the GameCube ended up selling 21 million consoles worldwide, and the Xbox ended up selling 24 million worldwide, which sounds like a big number until you consider this fact.
PS2?
Well, which the clear winner.
Yeah.
But Nintendo's consoles, and we so rarely get to talk about this, so I thought I'd bring it up. When Nintendo sold these consoles, they sold them at a loss to get the console out there, and with the hopes they would refine the product and get the cost down internally to make money on it eventually.
Sure.
But also, Nintendo's the software maker. They knew they'd make their money on the back end.
Absolutely.
Microsoft had the same plan. There was one slight difference. Every Nintendo GameCube sold at a $20 loss. All right?
A little bit of a loss, but
every Microsoft Xbox console sold at launch anyway, and up to a certain. I don't know if they ever really changed these things internally that much. I don't recall ever seeing one that was that changed. $100 loss per console.
Well, much like Nintendo could absorb a $20 loss, Microsoft could certainly absorb a $100 loss.
They could absorb the loss, but it made this console a money loser.
Yeah, it was.
It was a big time money loser.
Console-wise, the unit itself, yes.
If you think about it, they sold 24 million consoles worldwide at $100 a pop.
Yep.
Loss. So now some of that may came down. You don't know what the final tally was, but that's still a monumental loss.
Still, you have to figure it's at least 150 million in that range loss.
That's right. So you talked about this being a PC in a box. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
This thing was effectively a Pentium 3 733 megahertz processor, and it had 64 meg of memory. If it's funny, if you open these up and tinker around, you could actually add memory to it. There are pads there to add memory, which I believe the developer model had the extra memory in there.
I'm sure the software couldn't use it, though.
Well, modded Xboxes can use the extra memory.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they sure can. This also had an NVIDIA graphics chipset in it, which caused trouble because if you'll recall, when these things came out, they had a very similar problem to the 360 with heat issues. And they would,
big heat issues.
And they would die, and they would have to be replaced. And I will tell you, having dug around internally in the Xbox many times, they have quite a bit of cooling in there. I mean, it's not like they tried to equip this thing to last, and some have. I've never had a single bit of trouble with mine, the ones that worked when I got them. The ones that didn't work when I got them. Of course, the major Achilles heel for the Xbox was the DVD tray. That not when it come out. So as with all consoles, this thing had a plethora of weird extras. One of the appealing parts of the Xbox was that it also played DVDs, which was a big deal.
A big deal at the time.
Much like that's what sold a lot of PlayStation 2s, as I recall, the ability to play this stuff. So the Xbox had to have a remote control and a dongle hooked up to it. In fact, here's the dongle right here that would hook into the front, and that would you'd have a remote control, and once you had the remote, you could use the dongle to play DVDs. You had to have the dongle, unless you, of course, modded the Xbox. And it did a good job playing DVDs and CDs. It did a fine job. As Brent alluded to earlier, this was one of the first consoles, and really the first one that offered, well, that's not fair, because a lot of the earlier consoles offered some sort of connectivity to a service. But the Xbox was the first one that really brought a thing together where it was massively multiplayer.
It really sold the console in that kind of concept.
Yeah. And it was called what was it called?
Xbox Live.
Xbox Live, still around today in some form. Although they've discontinued the use of it on here. I looked to see who manufactured this. It was manufactured by an outfit called Flextronics, which I don't know if that's like an arm of Microsoft.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of wacky. So, what do you think the best-selling game on the Xbox was?
Halo.
Wrong. You're close though. Halo 2. Hey, it's a different game. It sold 8.46 million copies.
Wow.
Which is roughly 1/3 of all the Xboxes on Earth had a copy of Halo 2. Some of the other big hitters were Fable, which I know you've played that one. Ninja Gaiden, the original Halo, Project Gotham Racing, Dead or Alive 3. Those all sold over 1 million units each. Pretty good sellers. What do you think the last game made for the Xbox was?
Oh, I'm sure it was something ridiculous and wonky. I'm going to say Rugrats.
No. It was actually a pretty big title, sort of. And I actually have it. The very last game, which was manufactured August 12th, 2008, was Madden 2K9. It was the very last game released. I want to talk briefly about the way they debuted this console, which was, I believe it was at E3, and they had a press conference that included the widest gap in manliness of all time. The presenters of this were Bill Gates and The Rock. And it always amused me. And one of the things they touted was the fact that the Xbox, among other things, would play the finest, most tweaked out, graphically intense wrestling game of all time. It never had a good wrestling game. Trust me when I say this. Until you modded it and put WrestleFest on it or something, it did nothing. Now, we will briefly touch upon the controversial subject of Xbox modding. Now, Xbox was one of the first big modder consoles, wasn't it? I mean, really, it was. It's probably when I think of modded consoles, this is the number one console I think of for modding.
Especially if you're considering going in there and just changing everything so it's barely an Xbox anymore.
Originally, they gave this thing the ability to load Linux. One of the things that this thing does is run sort of a tweaked up version of DirectX.
Yep.
For AK from Windows. But people, I remember originally people were getting Linux to run, and once they got that to run, they blew the doors off. As a console, the people will argue this thing's quality. I actually think this is a tremendously good console, lots of good games. But as a modded console, it's off the charts good.
Yeah.
It plays everything. It plays all the classics. Pretty much you can play anything up to an N64 with some varying degree of success. And it's tremendous. It also, if ever used Kodi, Kodi was originally called, I don't know, was Kodi have a new name now? But the controversial media player that you see, Kodi was originally called the Xbox Media Center, and it came out on this unit.
Yep.
Someone modded it to be a home theater unit, and it did a tremendous job.
Yep.
It was great for that. They even had a remedial browser for it. Of course, it's got Ethernet port hookups. They also released an attachment that would let you have Wi-Fi on it. It wasn't that good, but it did have it. So this was a PC in a box, effectively. Yes. So it was a good console, I think. I've never owned this many of anything else. I've owned probably 15 or 20 of these over the years.
Yeah, on a personal story, I remember when I had first looked up online how to do soft mods for this.
Yeah.
And I came to your house. I was like, hey, let's go mod the Xbox. And you're like, what? And I was like, yeah, come on. We're going to GameStop right now. We're going to buy a copy of 007 Nightfire, and we're going to mod this. You're like, no, man, we need to do some... I was like, no, shut up. We're doing it.
He's right.
And we got in the car, we bought the game, and we modded it. Bam. It just happened.
Yep. In fact, this Xbox here is one of the original ones that we ever did, and he's right. We got gutsy and went for it, and it worked. So, not condoning modding if that's not your bag, but this is the only episode where we're going to get to really talk about modding a system. So this is the one we're going to talk about it
on. The way we modded it, I mean, we didn't mod it necessarily to pirate games. We modded it for it to be modded, so we could put on homebrew stuff, emulator stuff, on the air, it was, and the way we did it, I mean, literally, I looked up online, we went to the store, we bought the game we needed, we put some stuff on a memory card, and that was it. We were modded.
That's it.
It was that easy.
Yeah, and of course, this sort of opened the door to what modding has become, which is, the Wii and the Xbox 360 and everything else.
Well, a whole 9 yards, yeah.
So, all that aside, we had some comments this week that the Xbox was just too new. And to be fair, this console really fell out of production in 2005. They stopped producing new ones, and they stopped selling them in 2009. I believe that, as I recall. So that you're looking at a console here that is less than 10 years from being actively purchasable. And this was certainly our cutoff date. But what the heck? The games we looked at here are not that new. By today's system, I think mine came out in 2005 and Brent yours came out earlier.
2003.
So we figured, what the hell? Our goal on this show is not to care that much about the rules when it comes to that. Although I can't see us going. It was kind of weird to look at something that's modern, wasn't it?
Right. Hey, next add to the wheel.
Yeah,
PS4.
Pentium 7. Put them on there. So, with all that out of the way, we had to choose from the vast library of Xbox games. Now, keep in mind, these are not mods. We're playing full-on Xbox games.
Yes.
Brent, I'll lead the charge this week, if I may.
All righty.
And the game I selected, I'll have to admit, was one of my perennial favorites. It is called Test Drive Eve of Destruction. So this game was released. It was developed by Monster Games, published by Atari, controversial as well. Of course, this is that weird husk zombie Atari that shambles on to this day. And this was released only on the Xbox and the PS2, and it came out in August 25th, 5 days before my birthday, I might add, 2004. And it on the PS2. And I believe the release date was the same on the Xbox. It came out in Europe 2004. That could be right. No, take that back. This was released August 26th, 2004. I'll get it right eventually. And in Europe, it was released November 26, 2004. So, what is Test Drive Eve of Destruction? First and foremost, it is a continuation of the beloved Test Drive series. Now, if you live under a rock, you may not know what the Test Drive series is. Test Drive was a game released way back. I believe its earliest incarnations were on systems like the Atari 8-bit and the Apple II. And it rolled on, and I don't know if they're still making Test Drives to this day.
I believe they are.
Now, I will say, of all the Test Drives ever made, this is the black sheep, or this is the one that you never hear about, Harley, because it's so completely different than any of the other Test Drives.
That's right.
So, in Test Drive Eve of Destruction, you basically do races or battles in the redneck genre of racing. That's the only way I can describe it. This is demolition derby style.
Yes.
Cutthroat insanity. You play basically an unnamed person yourself as you go through the various modes that this game offers. The game offers 1 to 4 player multiplayer.
Yes.
Which I'll get into in a moment, and it also offers a single player sort of a campaign, if you will, or an adventure. I don't know what you would call it.
A tacked on story. Let's not beat around the bush.
It's actually pretty fleshed out. You inherit a car, and you live in a single wide trailer, right, out in the sticks, and your goal is to earn money with this car by entering various county fairs and racing events to get better cars, to earn more money. It's got an element where you actually drive to the events. You have to repair your car yourself, or you can have it repaired at a garage to pay somebody to do it. And you're using whatever parts are available, like the junkyard, whatever cars they've got.
Right.
To understand fully what this game represents, I'm going to go back, and I guarantee you no one in the retro community has ever talked about what I'm about to talk about. So
I know where this is going.
There was a show that debuted on the Spike Network in America way back, around about the same time, right before this came out. It was the early 2000s. It was called Carpocalypse. Carpocalypse was a reality show that followed a group of hardcore demolition derby style drivers as they attempted to attend weekly events by gathering parts together to get their junk cars working to go and race them. And a couple of the more notable characters from these shows were, and some of my personal favorites were Demo Dave, there was Mo, there was Fordzilla, whom I loved, King of the Mullets, and then there was Raybo. Raybo was a very colorful character, and who always drove this red, white, and blue car. He'd always spray paint. No, it was a different car. And these guys would compete with each other, and sometimes they'd team up in these crazy events. Now, to put in perspective, this really happened. This wasn't made up, and these events really occur in the United States.
Right.
Do they occur elsewhere in the world? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, they did.
The events this thing would have, and they're represented in the game, are things like a race with school buses.
Yeah.
Races where there's a figure-8 track where the racers cross in between each other.
Yes. Races
that are where they start half the pack going one direction on an oval track and half going the other. There'll be races where you have to go over jumps in the cars in the middle of the race, and these cars are all garbage. There are races where you just have a demolition derby. There are races where you have 2 cars chained together.
Yep.
With 2 drivers.
Yep.
You've got races where the cars are pulling campers or trailers or boats. You know, and these guys go out and race, and it's always just carnage. And the show, which ran 2 seasons, highlighted this on a weekly basis. I am not a car man, as Brent knows, but this was one of my all-time favorite shows.
Yeah, it was good fun.
It was when I was a kid, I used to watch Wide World of Sports, and my favorite episodes were the Globetrotters, Demolition Derbies. Those are the ones I wanted to see every week. because that kind of wanton destruction you can't see on a normal basis. I've been to a couple county fairs around here that had demolition derbies. They were never as good as what I saw on TV. These were always better because on those, they don't care if people get murdered. Nope. At a local event, they use a track that's watered down. It's all muddy. It's real small. You can't get up a head of steam. In the real world of demolition derby racing that takes place up in Milwaukee, Green Bay, and down in Florida, these guys are cutthroat. They go out to slaughter each other. It's great. So this show, not only did it serve as the inspiration for this game, but the clips of it are featured in the video unlockables, including clips of Raybo and Ford Zell and all the stars.
Which was crazy. I mean, it was...
Yeah. As far as I know, this has never been... I don't think it was credited to the show, and I don't think these guys were ever named. But and trust me when I tell you, finding information on the show, finding clips of the show is almost impossible. I had a heck of a time trying to find anything on the show. So that was the background that this game comes off of. And I will say the single-player campaign mode, it's a little bit difficult. It can get a little tedious, but it's pretty fun. But that's not what I normally would play. This game is the ultimate multiplayer throwdown.
Absolutely.
That's where this game
the multiplayer
shines.
in this game is ridiculously good.
Yeah. So what you get when you play multiplayer, and of course the Xbox we should have mentioned. If you look at you can barely see it at the front here. It has 4 joystick ports, and so what that means is you get 4 people on the screen. This is not Xbox Live. This is not
local multiplayer.
That's right. That's right. Multiplayer. So. When you play multiplayer on this, you split the screen 4 ways or 2 ways or 3 ways, depending on who you're playing. Just to go over some of the races. I'm not going to go over all because I'm telling you, there's a ton of races in this.
There's a lot of variety, yeah.
You've got, like I mentioned, you've got your demolition derby. You've got your figure 8 track. You've got your figure 8 track with jumps. You've got your change car. You've got your trailer, right? You've got a game... And this is one of my son's favorites called Detention, where one person plays a bus, and then there's a pack of cars, including any of the other players, and the bus goes and tries to smash all the cars before they finish doing their laps. Then there's the exact opposite. One person plays a hearse, and everyone tries to smash the hearse before it finishes its laps.
Yep.
It's called the Moth. It's a great one. There's car soccer. There's events where there are no rule races. You just go in there and go to work. There's all kinds of crazy events, and when you get more than one person together, this game really shines with those races. The damage model, since they don't use realistic cars, or they don't use actual licensed cars, they can damage the crap out of these cars. Your car, it has a damage gauge, and as you take more and more hits, your car's damage gauge depletes. It's like a life bar, right? And so when it depletes down to nothing, your car's dead. But as it depletes, depending on where you've taken all this damage, your car will show signs of failing. It will start to smoke. If you've taken a lot of hood damage, the car will have trouble being steered. The car will limp along at a lower speed. It does all this stuff, and it makes the game very realistic, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it matters where you get hit. I mean, if you can protect your engine, if you get hit in the butt, you don't take nearly as much damage as if you got hit in the hood.
Yeah.
So, it takes that sort of thing into account.
Correct. The trunk of the car, if you ever watch a demolition derby, I mean, it depends on the race. Obviously, you're not going to do most races backwards. But if you're doing a race that involves a lot of hitting, you need to spin that thing around and lead with your rear end. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with a game called Destruction Derby in that series, which was a brilliant series by Psygnosis.
Yep.
This game has taken the Destruction Derby model and made it quicker and made it better.
Yeah.
I know this game came out after Destruction Derby, and Destruction Derby is probably a prettier game, but this game is it takes that model and makes it better. The camera switches quicker when you go in reverse, for example, which is always a pain in my...
Right.
One thing I didn't like about the other one, you can seamlessly go in reverse in this. Of course, you've got a handbrake, you've got reverse, you've got back, you've got a camera swap. The controls are very simple. There's no manual gears. It's all automatic because that's something you don't need to worry about when you've got all this carnage going on. Is going in play, running a stick shift. These games are a lot of fun, and when you play them with two people, I played this with my son. He'd never played this game until this week, and I said, "Come on, Luke, let's get in here and get some of this." This is now his favorite game. He loves it. He wants to play this all the time. It's got so many game modes that my son's not a big racing fan. He is a fan of carnage, and he likes to go in there and smash people. He loves playing the school buses. One of the elements of this game that's also fun is all the races that I've mentioned can also be played with a variety of vehicles. They've got everything from compact cars to specialty cars that include ambulances and cop cars. There's unlockables. But one of the unique aspects of the game is that you can play a lot of the races with buses if you want to. So if you want to do figure eight jump racing with a bus, everyone has a bus if you want. Everyone can have whatever they want. That makes it a lot of fun. For me, there's a garage element in the single player. There's a paint job element in the single player. Stuff like that. But for me, someone who doesn't know much about cars or care much about monkeying with them, I just want to go out and race and slaughter stuff. This is the title for you. There are plenty of Demolition Derby games out there, but not with the variety of events. Something I should also mention is that the events take place in different areas.
Different arenas,
right.
Yeah.
Some places are like deserty. Some places are like Florida. Some places are like very pastoral, like you're out in the sticks. There's a crazy announcer that announces what's going on the track. You also get to pick a nickname before the race. So you can be the Hammer or the Hayseed or there's Cletus.
And there's lots of them.
There's lots of them. You
Several
can pick
dozen.
from, which is fun. So they'll announce you how you're doing on the loudspeakers. You're going around. I've read that some people found that guy, the announcer, annoying, but I kind of dug him. I kind of like that guy. But overall, I really thought it was a great game, and it's a game that every single time I have someone over to play it, they always come away liking it. I've never had anyone not like this game.
No, it's easy to like. It's easy to understand. It's easy to jump into.
Yes.
And you have fun, win or lose, which is hard to do in a game.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, you're like, oh, well, okay, I get that. Let's play this race. Or what happens if you put these two things together?
Yeah, let's play Capture the Flag.
And
let's play Red Rover. There's so many different options.
And when you have that kind of interchangeability in a game, it gives it longevity.
Right. And when you play multiplayer, you can pick how many events you want in the session. Usually me and Luke will play 7. And you get points on how you finish. So it tallies them all at the end. It's simple, but you have a winner and you have a loser. You know how many points you've scored. It tells you after every event. And so some people are stronger at some events than others. And it makes it fun if you can both alternate what you play.
Right.
So there's a fairness to it. And it's not a game that I would consider where you're just going to smoke the other player. Because if you put the skill level in rookie, even a neophyte, even a brand new player can have success. And it's a lot of fun just to crash the computer cars, just smash them into powder. Sometimes if you raise their level, they can be tough to deal with. But overall, it's a pretty good skill level difference between rookie and advanced.
And the nice thing about it is you do have enough levels in the computer playing that you can make, when you get better, you can actually raise the level and it gets more competitive. It's not just that it does more damage. The computer is smarter about how it attacks and that kind of thing. And playing with the computer at its highest level, you're going to get crushed.
Yeah, they're real tough. Now, I wouldn't say it's unfair. It doesn't. Not every car in the screen just comes after you, but sometimes it feels that way.
Yeah.
But
the computer doesn't single you out, even at the highest difficulty, but it does. So it certainly feels that way because you can't see the carnage that's happening, on the other side of the track. You can only see what you're up against, and when you're getting hit by 3 or 4 cars, you kind of forget that there's 4 more cars somewhere else getting beat up.
That's right. So one thing I wanted to mention about this is that if you have one of the new Xbox Ones, this is one of the games that is compatible with playing, and it gives you significant graphics and detail increases if you play it on the Xbox One. Yes. One of the things this game is a victim of its own era. There is draw-in.
Yeah.
You know, there is some jaggedness to it, but not too bad. I mean, the Xbox can actually go out to a high def display, but I mean, it's not going to blow you away graphically.
Yeah.
But it's plenty good enough, and it suits the game pretty well the way it's presented.
Oh yeah.
You know, when this was released, the scores were appallingly low. The Xbox Magazine, I believe, gave it a 70, which is horrible. Metacritic has a score of it on a 72 out of 100, which is not good. You know, they were all down somewhere in that 70s, and which is ridiculously low. One of the main, it's funny how things are, and I guess this was a thing back in the day, but one of the main criticisms I've heard is the soundtrack. Now, one of the things the Xbox does is give you the ability to add your own music.
Yeah.
So you can add whatever music you want. The music that comes with it, stuff like System of a Down stuff or Rob Zombie. It's like 13 or 14 songs. Does it get old? I mean, I don't really pay much attention to it. I'll just turn it off if it gets annoying. You can turn off the music. You can turn off the announcer. But I thought the soundtrack was fitting that game and the era it was in. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to stop me from playing the game.
I would have actually put a more countrified soundtrack in if it was me, but I guess that's just they wouldn't sell as many.
Yeah, wouldn't sell at all
that well. I will say that this game, and this is something I found out doing research, has become a bit of a cult classic, and you'll see that reflected in its eBay price. Normally, an Xbox game it will go for practically nothing.
Yeah, usually $5 to $7.
On eBay, these routinely go from $35 to $50,
which is just lunacy for an Xbox game.
But it's a game that has not been replicated anywhere else.
That's right.
Really, this is a game that you could play today, which is the perfect reason to pick it for a show like this, where we look for these sort of hidden gems, or sometimes we don't. But this is a game you can pick up and play right now on a modern console that you have not played the equal of anywhere before or since. I get the feeling this game didn't do well. Again, it's just sort of one that just is in the test drive universe was forgotten. This test drive moved on to more onto the kit car, drifting aspects of racing after this, and sort of left this sort of thing behind. I believe they also had a monster truck game that was also similarly panned. But don't get it twisted. Don't be confused. Of the test drive games, this is the one you want for the Xbox, without a doubt. I would say, if not my favorite Xbox game, one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, if you're looking for just a good time, especially a terrific party game, I mean, it's so good.
Absolutely.
It's so good.
And if you don't want that learning curve that's involved in, say, worms or something, I mean, this is a pick it up and go. That's all there is to it.
This button is gas. Have fun.
So you love this one, too?
Sure.
Great.
Sure. Now, I'm not as appalled by the 7s that it got, 7 out of 10s. I think it's slightly better than that. But I don't think I mean, giving it a 7, I can see it.
I suspect that the people that played this played only in single-player mode and did not try the multiplayer that much.
You're probably right.
I mean, I will say, the single-player mode's okay. The multiplayer is top shelf.
Yeah, that's where your fun is.
So, let's move on to game number 2. Brent, what do you got for us?
Today, I picked Futurama.
All right.
Noted for one reason, it's one of only a handful of games that is a one-word title. Yeah, believe it or not, most games have what will be like something and then have a subtitle.
What about Fable, Halo?
All those Fable games had subtitles. Same thing with the Halo games.
Okay.
Combat Evolved.
What a weird thing to open with.
Yeah,
well
just
done.
a little bit of fact.
You're goofy.
Futurama was a platformer, a shooter, a rails shooter. It was a little bit of everything, which was both to its compliment and also to its detriment. More importantly, though, was when Futurama, the game, as most people dub it. Actually, now they call it...
Oh, wait, doesn't that count against your Futurama as one name?
No,
rule?
because that's not what it isn't actually the game. It's just Futurama. But most people can now refer to it as Futurama, the console game, because there's also mobile games.
Which I'm sure are garbage.
They're not great. But Futurama, the game, released at a period of time when the television show, which I personally love, and I know you do too, was canceled. And then
a stupid time.
And then this game was already in development. This actually got released after the cancellation of the show, which probably both hurt and helped its sales. But we'll get onto that later. Let's talk about what Futurama is. Original story by the creators of Futurama. Matt and David both worked on this. They did all the scripting. You had most of your voice actors come back for the game. The only people who are absent are the voices of Amy, Hermes, of course, most of your sub characters, and it was all budgetary reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But your Fries, your Leelas, your Benders, Mom of Mom Corp, and all her little minions, all those voices, actual voices that did the show, are in the game. So that's cool. The story revolves around that the professor sold Planet Express to Mom, and by doing that, Mom now owns 50% of the planet, which makes her supreme ruler. So she goes in and she decides, well, since I'm now supreme ruler of Earth, I'm going to go and conquer the universe. And she does this by weaponizing the planet itself into a large Death Star that she drives around and enslaves all of Earth and controls them with evil death bots. So the crew says, you know what, this sucks. We got to fix this since it was kind of our fault. And thus begins the game. The game plays different depending on who you're playing and what part of the game you're playing. You start out as Fry. All of the characters have a platform element, but Fry's main thing is he has a gun. So he's kind of a run and gun shooter. Goes down to the sewer levels, does some running and gunning there. This was before the sewers were evolved into their own kind of society within the universe. These are when the mutants were just mindless, no caring about anything heaps. So you shoot them, you don't feel bad. After you complete Fry's level, which his is mainly collecting parts for the ship because the ship has been destroyed, you go into the Bender levels, which are, I don't want to ruin all the plot because there's reason to go back and watch this. But Bender is more of a platformer, way more of a platformer. He has special jumps that let him kind of glide down. And he is collecting parts to release the ship from Mom's grasp on a different planet. So you get more of a deserty terrain. And then you get to play as Leela, she's all hand-to-hand combat. Still with the platforming element, all 3D platforming element. And finally, after you get through with her, you get to do a Zoidberg, which is a cameo appearance, but his scene is sort of a Crash Bandicoot. You're riding an animal running through elements of the game. And then there's the final levels, you get to play all the characters in different roles doing different things. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Yeah, the game is decent, right? It's a platformer that suffers from bad camera, and it suffers from at times janky control.
It's hard.
It is incredibly difficult for this type of game, but it's not so hard that you can't get through it. I made it. I made it about halfway through.
Really?
Yeah.
My God, I've never gotten past the Fry stuff.
Oh yeah.
Super tough.
Yeah, the end of Bender's stuff is what ended up killing me. But the game itself has a special place in history because it is one of the only games that served more importantly from its story than from its gaming element. And what I mean by that is, like I said before, Futurama was canceled. And fans were pining for more. They wanted more Futurama. And this game came out and people started to realize that all of the cutscenes put together film an episode. It's an actual episode of the show. It feels like an episode of the show with the same gags, the same jokes.
It'd be a long episode.
No, it's not.
Really?
If you go and look up the cutscenes, it is 22, 23 minutes.
Really?
Which is the exact same length of an episode. Excuse me. So that sort of propelled people to be interested in Futurama again. Now, I'm not saying this one game brought back the show, because there was certainly a fan effort to bring the show back. But this helped keep the popularity high, and people were going out and getting the game, because at that time, I mean, YouTube really wasn't a thing. There wasn't a way to watch this without having this game and going through the game, which was actually later changed. As Futurama raised back in popularity, this is referred to as the lost episode. And it actually got a DVD release along with some of the anthologies of other Futurama episodes.
Really?
So
just the cutscenes, or did they
just the cutscenes where Matt actually played through the game and recorded the cutscenes, did the editing, where they had to edit out some of the stuff that was game related, and kind of shifted around so the episode flowed better. But it was an episode from the game. Big deal at the time. And because of that, it has retained its popularity throughout the years. For fans of the show, this is often, if someone says, "Well, I've seen all the episodes of Futurama," people will say, "Well, have you seen the Lost episode?" And people are like, I don't know, what are you talking about? They're all the one from the Xbox and PlayStation 2 game. So it has a little bit of a I'm higher class than you because I've seen this kind of feel, which,
that can't be a thing.
Well,
I'm higher class than you.
I'm a bigger fan. That's what I should say. But I thought that was a very interesting aspect of this game. The game itself, like I said, it's a platformer, it's a shooter, it uses cel-shaded 3D graphics.
It looks good.
It looks pretty good. It feels like an episode. There are a lot of Easter eggs, Futurama jokes that you can go. You look in lockers and you see different things from past episodes that are very interesting. A lot of one-liner jokes that if you aren't a fan of the show, you're not going to get. Excuse me. It is certainly a love letter to the fans. If you aren't a fan of Futurama, this game has nothing for you. I mean, would you agree with that?
Well, speaking solely on the game,
yes.
It looks good. It sounds good. The story is interesting. They did a good job translating the show into a game. The problem I have with it is it's not a fun game. I've never enjoyed it. And I wanted to because I'm a big fan of Futurama. I will say the very beginning where you instantly get killed is funny. Then they start you over. And there are plenty of funny parts, but it was just too hard. It was too, and it was. I mean, again, I didn't get far enough into it to see some of the other stuff. I watched a video on it, but I just thought it was not that much fun as a game.
Now that's odd. The Fry levels, in particular, most people will say great game because the platforming at this point is not hard, but it's challenging. The shooting aspect of the game is fun. Most people really don't have a problem with the game until they get to the Leela levels, where the game difficulty ramps up significantly. Oh my gosh, yeah. And the game has a password feature, so you can kind of get there. But the game got universally panned by critics. Mm-hmm. Just some of the notable reviews, it was in the 5s, 6s of reviews, which I think is a little harsh. I think that the game certainly has some camera issues.
Yes,
as do
that's
most
a lot
games,
of that stuff. Yeah,
as do most games of the time. This is certainly not the beginning of 3D but it is still in that infancy stage where you don't have it down yet.
Yeah.
And the camera that follows behind your character in the third person perspective, it's slow to rotate. And a game as fast paced as this, it really does hurt it. What is crazy is the popularity of the game now. Did you happen to take a peek at this on eBay?
I did not, no.
This game sells for loose disc will sell as high as $60.
Woo! Hot dogs! I've got this.
Well,
I've got your copy in the back. Yes, I'm rich.
The complete in box, not sealed, can sell upwards to $100.
Woo! I got that too.
And sealed copies, although there are very, very few left at this point, sell as high as $150 to $190.
Holy moly! I had a feeling it might be a pricey one.
Making it one of the highest selling Xbox games.
Highest valued at this point. Yeah.
Correct. Losing out to really only Steel Battalion with the
incredible
huge
controller
and stuff. But is one of the highest selling, highest valued games for the Xbox. Funny enough, on most people's top 10 rare Xbox game list, both of our games are on there.
Really?
Yeah. Yours, of course, as you said, selling for the $40, $50 range, $30, $40, $50 range. And Futurama selling higher than that, in more of the $60 to $70 range. Shows that there is a passion for your type of game, since it is very rarely reproduced, and my license, because the game's not pointing that number. It's the name of the game itself, right. Futurama being a licensed thing. Which, have you ever thought about that? I mean, can you think of any other game, retro or not, that has high appeal based off its license more so than its merit?
The game that comes to mind, this is not the only animated show licensed game that is considered a lost episode. As I recall, the name of the game was Batman the Animated Series: The Rise of Sun Tzu, I think, which is another Xbox game, I believe.
Yes, it is, and we own it.
And it is another game that's not all that great, but it's got. They did the same thing. They got the original animators. They wrote the story. They did cutscenes for it, and you can string them together. I'm a big Batman the Animated Series fan,
as am I,
and so I've tried to get into it, but it's not really. I don't think it's that much fun.
Now, see, that one I've played all the way through and was able to beat.
It's a beat 'em up, and it's subpar in my opinion.
Oh, and it is what it is.
You fight a lot of the same guys a lot of times.
If you can go through a game like Final Fight or Streets of Rage, you can make it through this. It's the same deal.
But I would say that's the one that comes to mind that would be similar to this in most ways.
I would agree, except that game does not have the financial type of feel, the financial backing of the gaming market that Futurama does.
Have you priced it?
It is. I looked at many like top 10 rare game lists, and it was never mentioned.
I'd say it probably because it sold better.
It probably did.
Yeah. But you would think Futurama would have sold quite a few. I'm surprised it didn't. That's surprising to me.
Yeah, and like I said, it will. Odd thing, it actually released in Europe before it released in before it released in America. So you had that going for you.
It is strange.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks before even. But Futurama, it actually holds a little bit of a special place in my heart because it is one of the games that I actually own. That I love Futurama, and it got me through those dark times. And well,
God,
as far as I could.
Oh man, now you're getting a little dark here. All right, we need to lighten the show. You ready to lighten this sucker up?
Let's do it.
Now, before you do this, remember the Xbox was one of the heaviest consoles of all time. So when you jump up,
we'll lift with my back.
Yeah, good luck. Hit the music.
Oh, the light.
Ignore these unrelated Atari cartridges. And here we go. You know, Brent, you've been rolling some weird ones here recently, so I think I'll spin the wheel this week.
All right, I will hold. Did you tell them what we added to the wheel?
This week, we added the Action Max.
Yeah. So, you know what? This is to make up for all those people that said that Xbox wasn't retro enough.
Right, the Action Max is as retro as it gets. So here we go. I don't know if I can spin it like you do. You ready?
Go for it. You know, for a beginner.
Let's see what we get here. The Vectrex! Finally, that thing's been on the wheel since Jump Street.
Very good system.
So, Brent, what are your recollections of the Vectrex?
I bought you one.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Well, this should be a special episode for a bunch of reasons. Number one, you'll have to play my Vectrex to pick your game. But the Vectrex, one of the all-time most unique consoles, wouldn't you say?
Certainly.
And we're going to have a lot of fun delving into that next week. So, I hope you've enjoyed our look at the Xbox. You may have heard some slight rumblings as we got to this episode. One of the, as much as we love Amigos Studios East, the truth of the matter is it's a metal building, and so it's raining outside. So if you thought someone was throwing rocks at us, and they might.
Or thunderous applause, continuous thunderous applause.
That sound you heard was incredible rain here in beautiful sunny West Virginia. So
the unfortunate side of it, our mic is wonderful, but it's not for things like this.
It's very sensitive. Yeah. It's very sensitive. So, all that in mind, we'll be back next week for another exciting adventure in retro gaming. And until then,
see you later.